This is Diana again from Branching Out Wood Crafts, and today I'm going to show you my entire process from start to finish on how to turn a photo like this. Could be of nature, it could be of your family, it could be of a favorite pet that you've lost, it could be anything at all, into a beautiful wooden ornament on a birch slice that you can use as an ornament. All right, so step number one is to find a photo that you love. Not every photo is going to work for this purpose. It needs to have quite a lot of background around it so that you have space to lay it on a round canvas. So a square photo or a rectangular photo on a round canvas. These are some of the photos that I use for my ornaments. These are the ones that we retail in craft shops all around PEI. Different locations, small towns. And these are actual photographs taken by Emma Boswell of EB Photography. She is a friend and a colleague, and we have partnered on this. And as you can see, there are lighthouses and beaches and animals and lilacs, lupins, fishing themed boats, all sorts of things. There are tons and tons and tons. And we collaborate on this project and it benefits both of us, and I couldn't be more ecstatic. The only thing I'm not revealing today is where I get my wood because, well, it's a limited source. You still need to sand it so it looks like this. So I use a rotary sander or circular sander, I don't know what you want to call it. You can also use a palm sander. You can also do this by hand, depending on how many you're doing. But when I'm doing, hundreds in a season, it hurts after a while. So I'm just going to show you how I'm going to sand this side so that looks like this side. You only have to sand the one side that you're using, but just to show you. And that's it. So now both sides are very smooth. I use about 120 grain sandpaper, and I find that does the job just fine. All right, so the next thing you do is you make sure that your photo is going to fit perfectly around without eliminating any pieces. Okay, so this piece of wood happens to be fairly perfect. There aren't any kinds of blemishes or knots or anything like that in it. So these are the ones I like to use for my photographs, especially the ones that I do personalized for people who send me pictures of their families and things like that, because they notice every single detail. All right, so like I said, you make sure that the photo fits. Now, the photos that I have are all different sizes because wood comes in all different sizes. That's usually between 2.5 to 4 inches in diameter for me, and that looks like probably 3/4 of an inch thick. All right, so I take a foam brush and I liberally paint on Mod Podge. Mod Podge is available at pretty much any craft store. I like to use the matte version, and I buy it in bulk. It didn't used to be eligible for Michael's 40% off coupon deals because it was a everyday value item or something, but now it is. So that is awesome. Paint it on. You don't want to have huge clumps or anything. I leave it a thin layer. Then you decide which orientation you want, and you put your photo face down. All right, now I'm going to put it on. I usually turn it over like this so I can see where it's headed. It doesn't have to be logically placed. It just has to make sure to cover all areas. Then you flip it back over, and right away you want to use something like a credit card or a ruler or something like that. And you want to just gently, not too hard because then you'll squeeze everything out, but gently flatten all parts and make sure that it's well adhered. Okay, now this is the one I just did. This is the one I did yesterday. It's the same photo, it's the same size wood. This one has dried for 24 hours. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're going to take a pot of water and you dip your hands in the water, just your fingertips, and then you start to rub the back of the paper. Now, this is the trickiest part, and it's very time consuming and is very frustrating. When I first started doing this, likely due to the type of wood I was using, which wasn't birch, and my impatience, which was a mass, I didn't do it right. And so probably only 2 out of 5 would ever turn out, and the rest I'd have to resand, which is a bugger once you have a coat of Mod Podge on it. And a lot of times wouldn't even work. So it was wasted material, which I hate. So I'm just using my finger and I'm gently going around it, all around the edges, and gently removing the paper. I'm not pressing too hard, but I'm removing it very, very slowly. Now I'm gonna do a time lapse, so this isn't quite so boring for you. This is where we're at so far. In between rubbings, what I like to do is let it dry. You can use a hair dryer if you're really impatient, but usually I've got several of these on the go at once, and so I just move on to another one and then come back to this when it's dry. So I use the palm of my hand, I use my fingertips. I always have some paper towel nearby in case I put too much water on, and I can wipe it off. All right, so time lapse, ready? Okay, so this is how far we've gotten. As you can see, there are a little few places along the side here, the top, the bottom, where some of the ink actually scraped off. So this is an ink transfer, like I said. So you print it out onto really thin paper, like the thinnest regular 24-pound weight. And then as you're removing the paper, especially when the background is lighter for some reason, it tends to take off some of the ink with it. Now, this isn't too bad. If it were a family photo one, I probably wouldn't, I'd probably start over, but this isn't too bad. And you'll see in the end that it kind of works with it because it's kind of a rustic look when there's pieces missing. And I really like that. If the client doesn't, they can choose something else. All right, so you can also probably see there's still a little bit of flecks of white there. That's okay for right now, but we are gonna wanna get rid of those before we finish it. So the next step is sanding. And that can be difficult as well. I'll show you the tools that I use, and you can use what you have on hand. So like I said, it's not completely finished, the taking the paper off part, but what we're gonna do now is, as you can see in the finished product, it's kind of melds into the sides and it's kind of smooth. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna smooth it down. I like to use this little contraption. You can use whatever you want. It's just a Velcro pad that is nice and cushy to hold, and it fits in my hands. And then it comes with different grains of sandpaper. I'm gonna use a bit of a rougher one, so it would be lower than 120. It's probably about an 80. And I'm gonna go all the way around the edges and really kind of take off the Mod Podge that's remaining and smooth it out a lot. All right, so I've gone all the way around the edges a few times and made sure that's kind of even looking. And just taken off and rounded the very ends there. So now that this is done, I'm gonna wipe it off, try and get as much of the dust off as possible. And now it's nice and dry. I'm gonna go back with just one wet finger. I'm gonna go back over it, use my paper towel, rub it off, and hope that those last little flecks of white kind of roll their way off the surface. Just like that. Now, I won't lie, if there's a dark spot and the paint has come off, or the ink has come off, kind of like right there, what I might do is take a Sharpie marker and just dot it, just so it's not quite as visible, as long as it doesn't affect the overall If it's in a light area, you really can't do that because then you affect the integrity of the image itself. But in a dark area, I will do that. Now be careful because when it's wet, it looks like it's completely clear of extra paper. So you need to let it dry to be absolutely sure that there's no paper left. Okay, and that looks pretty good. I'm just gonna go get that black marker. It's as is, somebody will love it. Now, you'll be able to see, especially in ones that have a light background, you'll be able to see the grain of the wood. All right, so the next step is finishing it. I used to finish it with Mod Podge. I liked it because it was matte, but yeah, you could see the strokes of the foam brush and it just didn't look as professional. So I decided upon the recommendation of somebody to try some different products. And the product that I'm using right now, and we'll probably stick with as long as, you know, the reviews are good or positive, is a varathane. Now, varathane is not non-toxic, obviously, so wouldn't have been my first choice, but you do need to protect it and it does need to look good at the end. So use Mod Podge if you want, if you're just making it for family, but if you're hoping to do something a little more professional, a little more sellable, then try varathane. This is a gloss finish. I would use a matte the next time. And what you're gonna do is just put a very light coating all over it. Doesn't matter which direction, do it in all directions. Just have good light so that you can see that you've covered the entire thing. Now, I'm impatient again, so I'm going to use a hairdryer and I'm going to dry the coats in between and let it get 3 or 4 coats on it because I think it really helps to protect against dings or drops or whatever. So. Okay, so there are 3 coats of varnish on this. Next, you want to take a drill, preferably a cordless one, so you can take it anywhere. A fairly thin drill bit, this one is 1/8. And you want to find the perfect spot near the top in the middle that doesn't touch any kind of a knot and just make a hole. Just like that. I like to keep it small. You don't need to worry if it's rough or anything. Take a piece of twine, this you get at the dollar store, and string it through. You can tie it however you like. I just go like this. And that's it from start to finish. So the reason I'm doing the tutorial obviously is because lots of people ask me how it's done and I love explaining that to people at craft fairs. I just love it. And I show them the whole process and all sorts of different prototypes and things like that. And they think it's so cool. And there's no secret here. I learned this on YouTube. Anyone can learn it. But it does take an enormous amount of time. And it took me about 9 months of practice before I could say, all right, this is worth doing because I don't mess it up. So power to you if you want to try it. I think you should. If you get frustrated, don't worry about it, but follow the tips that I gave you and hopefully your product will be worth giving or keeping or saving or whatever you plan to do with it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Facebook, Branching Out Woodcrafts, or email, branchingoutwoodcrafts@gmail.com. Thanks so much. Bye.